I want you to stand up right now. Go to the nearest mirror and look carefully at the reflection, at yourself. Look into your eyes, at your hands, at that magnificent biological machine that makes you who you are. You know the classic story taught in schools and written in textbooks. A process of trial and error lasting billions of years, natural selection, random mutations, and a lucky winner emerging at the end. Humans. In other words, we are nature's greatest lottery win. But what if there is a dark, unexplained chapter in the story that hasn't been told to us, or perhaps has been deliberately ignored? That gap scientists call the missing link, and historians call the cognitive revolution, that sudden and impossible leap. What if the being you see in that mirror is not the result of a slow and natural process, but the product of a conscious design, a rushed engineering project? Today, we will place the most controversial findings of modern genetics side by side with the oldest tablets of human history, the dusty clay tablets of Sumer. And the picture that emerges might chill you to the bone, because the evidence whispers that Homo sapiens, that is, us, might be this planet's first GMO product, its first biological worker. Welcome. Today we will try to read our own user manual and perhaps our manufacturing defect. We have to go back to the beginning of the story, the very beginning, but not to Charles Darwin. We must go thousands of years before him, to the zero point of civilization, Mesopotamia, Sumer. In excavations conducted in Iraq in the 19th century, archaeologists found tens of thousands of clay tablets. These tablets, especially the Atrahasis epic, told us the story of those who came from the skies, the Anunnaki. However, this story was not the spiritual, holy, loving creation story you might expect. On the contrary, it was a dirty, political, sweaty, and highly industrial story. The tablets clearly stated, when the gods were like men, they bore the work and suffered the toll. The Anunnaki did not come to Earth for a vacation or to love us. They were on a mission. They wanted to extract the planet's resources, specifically gold, which was necessary to protect their atmosphere or for their technology. However, mining is a hard and dirty job, no matter where you go in the universe. The lower-class Anunnaki, the Igigi, were tired of this heavy mining work that had lasted for thousands of years. And finally, history's first strike, the first rebellion, took place. They burned their tools, broke their shovels, and surrounded the palace of the chief god, Enlil. The fate of humanity was drawn right at this moment of union crisis. The Council of Gods gathered urgently. They needed a solution. They needed a biological machine that would do the work, enter the mines, carry the load, but would not rebel. One that was intelligent enough to understand commands, but obedient. Enki, the chief scientist of the Sumerian pantheon, and Ninhursag, the genetic expert, stepped forward. Enki's plan was simple but brilliant. We don't need to create a living being from scratch. Down there, in the wilds of Africa, Abzu, there is already a primitive being that can walk. The creature he referred to was likely Homo erectus, an ancestral primate that could walk but not speak, could use simple tools but could not think complex thoughts. The plan was this: to graft the Anunnaki's essence, that is, their genetics, onto this local creature. In the tablets, this process is poetically described as mixing clay with blood. But when we look through the lens of modern science, could clay represent the Earth's elements and local DNA, and blood represent advanced genetic material coming from the outside? The Sumerians named this new species Lulu Amelu. The meaning is terrifying: the mixed being, or more simply, the worker. So, is this just a mythology thousands of years old? Or do we carry evidence inside ourselves that confirms this story? Now, let's go under the microscope and look at one of the greatest mysteries of modern science, Chromosome 2. We are 98% genetically identical to chimpanzees. However, in this 2% difference, there is an anomaly that is very difficult to explain by natural evolution. All great apes, chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, have 24 pairs of chromosomes. Humans only have 23 pairs.
If we evolved slowly from them, where did that one pair of chromosomes go? Did it get lost? No. When scientists mapped our genetics with the Human Genome Project, they found something shocking. Our chromosome 2 was actually formed by the end-to-end fusion, the forced joining, of two separate ape chromosomes, 2A and 2B. Chromosome fusions happen in nature. It is not impossible. However, in human chromosome 2, there are very distinct telomere remnants at the fusion point and an extra centromere. It's as if someone, like a film editor, took two strips of film, cut the ends, and taped them together. This fusion is the turning point of human evolution. It is the key event that separated us from the apes, grew our brains, and gave us the ability to speak. Ancient astronaut theorists ask, was this fusion nature's random lottery? Or was it a genetic welding operation performed precisely in a laboratory setting? Perhaps the signature that makes us Lulu, that turns us into the working class, is these stitch marks on chromosome 2. This rushed project theory also explains why we have so many physical problems. Look at other animals in nature. They walk as soon as they're born, they don't suffer from back pain, they don't get sunburn. But us? We seem forced onto two legs. Our spine cannot support this load, and we suffer chronic back pain. Childbirth is a deadly risk for the human female because our pelvis is too narrow to birth that suddenly enlarged, massive brain. It's as if our hardware, body, could not adapt to our software, brain. It's as if someone compressed millions of years of evolution into a few thousand years and said, "That's good enough, it will do the job." We are not a perfect design, we are a purpose-built, rapidly prototyped, transitional form. And the end of the story. The Sumerian tablets say that this project got out of control. The created human, who was supposed to be just an obedient worker, ate from the tree of knowledge. That is, they gained not just intelligence, but awareness. They questioned their own existence. They multiplied. They made noise. They began to disturb their creators. The legend of the flood was actually an attempt to destroy this faulty and dangerous production, to reset the system. But with Enki's help, humanity survived this extinction. And now, thousands of years later, in the year 2024, look in the mirror again. What do you see? What are we, the slaves created from mud to work in mines, doing today? We are editing our own DNA with genetic engineering. We are creating a new consciousness, a new working class in our own image with artificial intelligence. We plan to go to Mars and colonize it. Does it sound familiar? We are following in the footsteps of our own creators. Perhaps this is the universal cycle. The worker turns into the master. The created becomes the creator. In our first video, we asked, who was the first human? Now we're left with a more frightening question. For whom was that human designed? The truth is, no matter what is written in our genes, whether our beginning was in a laboratory test tube or a primordial mud puddle, the rest of the story now belongs to us. There may be stitch marks on our chromosomes. There may be locked doors in our brains. But the greatest rebellion is to start as a project and transform into a legend that writes its own destiny. We are the ones breaking the chains. If you are curious about this genetic legacy, this hidden history, and where the future will take us, join us on this journey. Subscribe to our channel, and don't miss this hunt for the truth, because the greatest secrets are not hidden in the sky, but in your veins.